All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our session today. My name is Patrick Del Rosario. I am the program coordinator for the Social Sciences Academic Resource Center, and we do have a special guest today that I will be introducing a little bit later in our presentation, who's going to do a presentation, like a small presentation in the beginning of our main one. So today we are doing a presentation on managing your student finances with money on your mind. Just to let you know, you have availability to insert questions into the chat and the Q&A function, and I will be answering those questions at the end of the presentation. So as the presentation comes along, please feel free to put anything in there, and then we'll just look at it towards the end. All right, so this is going to be like a presentation talking about a lot of the different resources that are available to you throughout your academic career. So if you're an incoming student or you're a continuing student, these are some things that may be brand new to you or things that just could be available to you, as you're going along. We'll talk a lot about different resources, and we'll also talk about different ways that you can think about budgeting and like changing your mentality about how money is used. So that's what it is going to be like. But without further ado, I would like to introduce the Director of Student Outreach and Retention Center, also known as SOAR. This is Paulina Raygoza. So I'll go ahead and let her talk a little bit about her resource center and how her center can also help you in support of your student costs. So here we go.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Patrick, for inviting me to be here and for allowing SOAR to be a co-sponsor for this event. I'm really glad to see everyone on the chat. Like, for summer, this is a huge attendance rate. So thank you all for being here, making the time, and really thinking about your finances, right, at a young age, and just really thinking about like, how can you manage your money, especially as a student, right? Because I will say, like, a cup of noodles every day is not the thing to do. It's not healthy for you. So the earlier you get your finances in order, or just really think about like how to manage your budget, I think will be helpful for you. So like Patrick said, I'm Paulina Raygoza. I'm the director for the Student Outreach and Retention Center. I use she, her pronouns. I'm Pisces, if anyone's interested. And one of the things that I just really love to share about SOAR is really that SOAR is a student-initiated outreach and retention center that was created by students like you for students like you. And so our focus is really about making sure that when we're supporting student-initiated outreach and retention programs that are put on by registered campus organizations, that's like our bread and butter. So how many folks here are part of any student organizations like SASA, like BAMP, LSPA, any of those organizations, Hermanos Unidos? Those are organizations that have historically, affiliated with our SOAR Center, and we actually give grants to those organizations to put on programs that help increase diversity here at UC Irvine. I was going to say UCSC, UC Irvine. And part of that is because we have a commitment, right, to making sure that access to higher education is not an issue for a lot of like the communities that we come from. So that's a lot of the work that we do, is that we offer grants to student organizations to be able to do those things. We also help support students of color on campus and a lot of first-gen students through providing free academic resources. So we give out free blue books, free Scantron throughout the year. And then we also provide grants and scholarships. So if you are interested in and need support, right, on purchasing books or materials for your class, every quarter we give out 7 grants for which we call our book grant application. And you can apply for $100 for a book grant or for other supplies that you need for your classes. And then in addition to that, we also have a separate scholarship that we give out. We give out $4,000 each quarter to students. So you can apply for up to anywhere between $300 to $1,000, and it's reviewed by a committee. And the requirements for that one is really just having a 2.5 GPA and then being involved with either the SOAR Center, being a transfer student from an Umoja program, or being involved with the CBCRR. So that's really our commitment to wanting to help those communities that are, again, first-gen, low-income students that are coming from historically underrepresented and underrepresented communities here at UC Irvine. And so that's also open to both undergraduates and graduate students. If you have questions about that, please let us know. We can definitely help guide you to our application. We haven't opened the application for fall yet, but we will be doing that starting September 26th is when the application will open for both of those grants. In addition to that, we also have just study space at our SOAR Center. So we will be open in the fall. So if you want to stop by, if you're on campus, you can stop by. Although we have a lot of commuters that come to our center, so we have a fridge. So if you need a place to like leave your food, if you're on campus all day, you can do that there. We have a microwave. We have a lot of utensils. Every Tuesday and Wednesday, we do our cup of soar. And we do, it's basically breakfast in the morning for students. And what part of that is really thinking about how it is that you can actually make sure that you eat breakfast before you go to class. Because if you're hungry and you're in class, you're not thinking about class. You're thinking about wanting to eat lunch. And so one of the ways that we help to retain students is providing breakfast in the classroom, or breakfast in the mornings. The other things that we do is we offer consultations for students. So we have peer Pathfinder peer educators that help to do one-on-one consultations, and they help direct you to the resources that you need. So if you're not sure about any offices or where to get certain resources, you can come in and talk to a Pathfinder peer educator and they will guide you to that resource. And the best thing about it too is that, again, it's coming from an upperclassman, so someone that you can trust and someone who's been through your personal experience, and then also someone who's willing to walk you to that resource center. So if you're not sure where it is on campus, they can walk you there. And then the last thing we do is that we have our graduate access preparation program. So if anyone here in the room is thinking about grad school already, which I hope you are, we actually have a partnership with the division of the graduate division, where we have a program that runs winter and spring. And that class, it's basically like a class where you get two units for the course, and then you actually get mentorship from a grad student, and you get 2 free UCI graduate application waivers. And then in addition to that, you get a free GRE course. So that's all covered within the student fees that you give, and that's all part of the Source Center support. So we have our website here. So I don't know if Patrick can direct us to our website. You can sign up for our newsletter if you're not part of our newsletter. We do, during the summer, we do bi-weekly newsletter editions, so you won't get spammed every week. So you can sign up for our newsletter on our website. And then you can also find out about all of our resources. We have office hours during the week on Tuesday, Thursday, and Wednesday. So if you want to join us, we have other students that are working during the summer that you can also ask questions about. And then here's the class that we also are offering for fall. So if you're interested in taking another 2-unit university class, you can also take that. That class is really more focused around student agency, around student empowerment, youth movements, and just kind of figuring out ways, again, that we can rethink about the educational paradigm here at UC Irvine. So I think that's all for me. If you have any questions, again, our email is soaring@uci.edu. And then in the chat, I'll populate our Instagram. A lot of folks follow us on Instagram. So if you prefer to do Instagram, you can do that. So that's our Instagram handle. So looking forward to seeing most of you in the fall in person, hopefully, if you're there on campus.
Great. Thank you, Paulina. So at the end, I'll also be sending an email and also Paulina's personal email as well, if you wanted to kind of get in contact with her as well, just so that you can make sure that you can get all of your questions answered for the Source Center. Thank you, Paulina. And thank you for joining us. All right, so we will be moving into the next resource center, and we'll be talking a little bit more about a lot of the different available options for all of you, because as Paulina mentioned, you know, there's a lot of different ways that people can think about their finances, and some of it is also related to like food insecurity or just anything like that. So I want to introduce some of these different resources where you could kind of see support for those people who kind of are looking for funds. So one of them is going to be the Fresh Hub at UCI. Basically, it's a center to address students who are experiencing some form of food insecurity. They have a UCI food pantry. So if you're looking to get like kind of meals or anything like that, or you're not able to find any funds to kind of purchase any foods, they'll actually provide it to you. You're going to be needing to have some swipes in order to get in. They provide grants through the CalFresh grant. So if you're going to be in need of funds in order to kind of purchase groceries for a month or something like that, they'll actually have that available to you. And they're going to be able to provide emergency swipes for you as well. So you know that sometimes in the dormitories, they require swipes in order for you to actually go into the food halls. They would also be able to supply that to you if you are able, like if you apply for it and you're actually going to be able to qualify. They also do have resources for people who are in need of like social work. So people who are struggling with finances or even housing. I think I saw on their website recently that they actually do have like a 30-day emergency housing thing that you can actually take part in if you actually need it. So for people who are struggling trying to find housing throughout the academic year, you can go to the Fresh Hub website and you'd be able to actually kind of apply for it and then see if you're able to qualify for that as well. So moving into more about the academic side of it, there's also a lot of resources that can kind of help you with some of your money saving efforts in that way. Because a lot of the textbooks within social sciences are actually within the course reserves for UCI libraries. So what this essentially means is that you're going to be able to get textbooks without actually needing to purchase them. So also without having to try to find the need of finding like an online PDF or anything like that, at least in the libraries, I believe that they started putting online books throughout the entire year last year. But when we were physically on campus, they were allowing students to check out the the textbooks for a period of time. I believe that it's about 2 hours long that you're allowed to actually have the books at any given time. And if there's nobody looking for that book afterward, you can extend the period of time that you actually have it. And then for those of you who are also looking for technological equipment or anything like that, they also do allow people to rent out laptops or iPads or like digital equipment like cameras or like just any tools that you would need for like video editing or something like that. And this is also going to be based on like a time-based thing. So you're allowed to also have these, I think, for about 2 hours of a time as well, but you're not allowed to actually have it overnight. So if for some reason your computer breaks in the middle of the day, but you happen to be on campus, they are going to be allowing you to actually rent out a laptop for that short period of time. For those of you who aren't working from or who aren't going to be on campus and are actually going to be working from home, I do want to point out that you actually can log into UCI's network. This one is something that I actually do want to show you here because being part of UCI, it is a research campus. And oftentimes that means that during your research papers, you're going to be needing to log into like a research database. And typically that's going to incur a cost if you're trying to access it when you're off campus. But whenever you're on campus, you have the ability to access those things. But from here, you're actually able to connect from off campus. So when you go to the UCI library website, if you're working from home and you need to log into UCI's network, this is where you would do it through the UCI library. So it also saves the trip. For example, if you need to go on campus, it can save up on a little bit of gas if you don't need to go on campus and you don't have any classes for that day. Maybe you could just stay at home and connect from off campus. So that way you don't have to worry about, taking that extra cost just to get to campus if you don't have classes there. Of course, depending on your situation at home. Okay. While I'm actually looking at other websites, this is the website for the Fresh Hub. So a lot of the different resources that I was talking about, I believe is located here in Fresh Services. So you can see that there's, oh wow, they even have something based on transportation. So if you need help with transportation, Fresh Hub is actually also able to help you with that. This is the CalFresh application that I showed with you earlier. And then I think all the way down here at the bottom is where I saw the note about temporary housing. So you can kind of navigate the website here to kind of see what is available to you if these are types of needs that you're going to be needing in the future. Other things that I want to mention for resources that are available would, of course, be the Office of Financial Aid. So the one thing that is kind of mainly that I would want you to kind of pay attention to is the timeline of when the FAFSA applications actually opens. And based on their website, it actually is a period between October 1 through June 30, where the application is actually open for you to be able to fill out. So as you're gathering the information, you can start it as early as October 1, but they do suggest that you actually submit it by March 2. I'm thinking that that's when they actually start to look at applications to determine if things need to change or anything like that. So just make sure that you keep that timeline in mind if you're one of those students that needs to apply for financial aid. The other thing that I do want to mention is scholarships, which kind of leads into the next section for what could be available to you. So the Office of Financial Aid actually has a common application for a lot of the different scholarships that are available between many of the different schools. So if you didn't know this already, there are scholarships that are going to be available to all students through the Office of Financial Aid, but each of the different departments also has specific scholarships for you as well. So within the School of Social Sciences, since all of you are part of social sciences, we do also have a list of our own scholarships that are going to be available to you as well. Let me describe the financial aid one really quick. So it is a common application. So for those of you who are familiar, that just means that there's one application that you're applying to, and then the staff at the Office of Financial Aid will kind of see how your application fits within a multitude of different scholarships. And then if it does apply, it's going to be sent off to a committee. So 3 of our scholarships within the School of Social Sciences actually exist within that common application. So let me go ahead and quickly show you where that is. Let's see here. Here we go. So The scholarships that are connected to the Office of Financial Aid are going to be these three. So essentially, when you've applied to that common application, the staff members at the Office of Financial Aid are going to see if you qualify for any of these different scholarships. And if they do, they're going to send your application to the committee who's going to be overseeing the choice of those scholarships. The other scholarships that we have within the School of Social Sciences are going to be based on academic papers. So these ones are fairly simple to apply to as well. If you have a research paper that you're currently in the process of writing, you can apply to any of these ones and you can submit those papers as part of the application process. And then lastly, the other kinds of scholarships that we have are going to be proposal-based scholarships. So these are going to actually require you to write up a proposal in order to ask for a certain number of funding. And you'll notice that when you click on any of this information here, it's a varied amount in regards to how much money that you can actually receive for these particular scholarships. So it's going to be highly based on the type of proposal that you submit as well. Okay. All right. So that's just a note on some of the scholarships that we have. As we move on to other resources that are going to be available to you. So as even Paulina was mentioning, for those of you who are thinking about graduate school, a lot of the different ways that you can get funding to do your research projects could be available through the Undergraduate Research Opportunities Program, right? So we do have a center on campus that provides funding for students who are doing research. And the reason why you would need funding is that typically if you're going to be doing some kind of research project, you might be looking for some kind of form of compensation. And we wouldn't want you to actually take some of those funds out of pocket, right? Because for somebody who's going to be doing an interview or completing a survey, that's going to be about like $10 per person who's actually doing the survey, or $20 out of your pocket. But what you can actually do is you can submit your research proposal to this center, and then they would be able to kind of see like, okay, this is how much funds that we can allocate for you to do that. The only thing about this is that if you do happen to get funding for your research projects, you're going to be needing to participate in the end of the year symposium. So it's something that's going to be a part of it. And the presentation poster board that you use for the research opportunity is actually going to be something that you can put in your budget for that as well. So it is something that they could probably fund for you. And then lastly, for those of you who are thinking about graduate studies or graduate school, I would want you to actually look into the UCI graduate studies. Similarly to how the SOAR grad program would provide you with fee waivers and just different ways of kind of funding your grad school process. If you are thinking about going to UCI as a graduate student, there is also fee waivers available for students who are thinking about going into graduate school for UCI, and they talk about how to actually manage your financial aid. So this is one of those places where you might want to check for any additional assistance with funds. Okay. The other thing that you can do for those of you who are incoming students and aren't aware, or even current students who haven't thought about working on campus yet, there is a multitude of different paid positions that are on campus. Some of them are housed within the different resource centers that are available across campus. So if you were working in the academics, the admissions office, or if you're working like at maybe the food service areas on campus, those are going to be paid opportunities for you to get some kind of regular income as you're going through the entire process of your academic career. So a lot of those are actually going to be housed within the Division of Career Pathways handshake. So just to kind of show you what that looks like. We don't have it up here yet. So, right, Division of Career Pathways handshake. This is going to be the general hub for information that you want to look for any job listing that could potentially be on campus. And the reason why I'm showing up Handshake is because some of these student positions on campus actually post on Handshake. So let me give you an example for OIT. OIT is looking for students to be hired for this position. So, it's going to be available for you here. And they're telling you to actually go to Handshake to do so. So Handshake is probably one of the good places to actually look for a paid job on campus. You could also look, for example, at the Food UCI employment. This is where you could find student positions as well. So this is information that I'll be able to provide to you post this presentation. So just to let you know that there's different places where you can apply. If you can't find anything online, but you were thinking about working in a particular office, what I would suggest that you do is actually go up to the office or send them an email and ask if there's any paid student positions that are available to them. Sometimes it kind of depends, like if they hire on a quarterly basis or if they if they hire on an annual basis. It kind of just depends between the different offices. So it's always a good practice to be able to just ask the different offices when their hiring periods are for student workers, if there are positions that are available. So along the same lines of what student positions are available, again, within the School of Social Sciences, we do have additional opportunities that are available to students and we actually hire all of our paid students during the beginning of winter quarter. So as you're planning for this particular academic year, we release our applications to be a mentor within our first generation first quarter challenge, which is a mentorship program for incoming students who are freshmen and transfer, and the peer academic advising program, which is a program that kind of lets students experience what it's like to be an academic counselor and help other students, get their classes towards graduation. So these applications release sometime in winter quarter. So if you're not graduating this year in the year of 2022, and you're going to be here for the following year of 2022 through 2023, then these opportunities are going to be available to you as something that you could be a part of. Okay, so you can see that there's a multitude of different job opportunities on campus, things that are going to be providing you with support that's going to be free, just ways for you to make sure that you don't have to spend a lot of costs in order to, eat properly or find tools, because you have to pay for Scantrons. I mean, it's only like 25 cents, but like that can go towards a meal instead of towards like a Scantron in itself. Some of the meals can be subsidized for you. Like there's a lot of different resources on campus that can provide you with that, so you don't have to pay for it. And then you can focus a little bit more on rent or bills or anything else like that. So as we're going along and kind of thinking about, well, now that we know that all of these resources exist where I can get additional funds, the question I think we want to know is like, how is it that we can actually think about budgeting ourselves, right? And when you think about cost, there's really only a couple of things that you have to pay attention to, tuition being one of them. And this is most likely going to be covered by loans, or if you have support from family members, or if you have like some kind of grant or financial aid, that's probably what's going to be handled by it, in addition to housing and rent. And that kind of depends on how much money is going towards your rent based on where you live. And then, of course, any additional bills and debts and loans. I wouldn't necessarily say that this is the way that you should prioritize it, but of course, when you think about your spending habits, there are things that you absolutely have to spend for, while there are other things that you don't need to spend for as much, or you don't need to, it's like not a necessity for you to continue on in your academic life, right? The things that I would probably argue aren't necessarily as big expenditures, because you can kind of mitigate that, like food and snacks, right? The difference between eating out on a regular basis as opposed to going to a grocery store and buying enough food for about 2 weeks. The difference in how much that costs can be very big. Academic materials, right? So if you have a laptop, know where you can get other things, or like know where you can get books if you don't need to buy it or something like that. Just kind of understanding like and kind of measuring out like, okay, like what kind of laptop do I really need? Does it need to be the biggest amount or the most expensive laptop at the time, just to make sure that it can last for the next 5 years? Or are you okay with doing one that's maybe like secondary tier, just so that it kind of goes with the next highest in line? There's like decisions like that where you need to make sure like, okay, is it going to be within the budget that I've set for myself? And of course, you have a lot of the other miscellaneous things, like clothing or games or entertainment or house decor. Thinking about whether or not you're going to be living a little bit more minimalistic in that way, or if you kind of want to have some of these other things. And I'm not saying that you don't treat yourself ever at all. I mean, of course you do want to treat yourself, but I think the main question is like, how do you actually want to manage your funds, and how do you want to keep track of whatever it is that you're spending? Budgeting, I would say, is more like a lifestyle, right? Think if you're thinking about it from a minimalistic perspective, there's a lot of extra things that you don't need, so that you can focus a little bit more on paying tuition, housing, bills, or anything else that's going to be required for you to continue living and going on in education. So really, it's kind of like, well, how do I make sure I have delayed gratification? And then for those of you who were kind of sitting in the session before we even started, Paulina and I were talking about like, building up a savings before you actually start. And the earlier that you do it, the better it becomes. I think one of the ways that I can actually talk about managing your finances is kind of creating a visual for you. So what I actually did was, let's see, I think I can't show you just yet. So I have to stop share and then show you this thing here. All right. So this is kind of like an example of how you could imagine your budget works. And essentially the way that this thing is kind of written is kind of like how your debit card functions, right? Because you basically have what your current balance is, and then you'd be able to visually see like whatever it is that you're spending or what's being credited to your account, right? So I will say that even for the way that I manage my finances as a student, it was pretty much like I didn't separate budget based on category, but you definitely can. Like I'm only spending $1,000 in groceries for this month, or like I'm spending like $300 on academics. But for me, I would say like if you're using credit card or anything like that, you want to make sure that you just don't have an extra balance of zero. Or a good rule of thumb is just don't spend money that you don't have. So just making sure like you're keeping track. And I mean, this is something that we can talk about like at a separate session because it takes a bit of time to kind of really think about your mentality of how you're going to be spending your budget. But let's say, for example, that you go out to eat or something like that, and it's going to be like, I don't know, let's say 8/16/2021, and you decide to go out to eat for like $30 at like a restaurant. So let's just say that you're eating out and go for 30. The way that I have this coded right now is that it automatically calculates everything that's happening here so that you know what your remaining budget is. And that's kind of functions how like the debit card functions for you. So, I mean, you could easily just kind of code these things to make it so that you can have a better chance of managing your budget. Like, let's put this thing in savings. And then when you put some money into savings, oh, it's supposed to calculate this thing too. But oh no, it's a debit, actually. There you go. So then savings would kind of increase so that you can kind of keep track of your savings. And regardless of however you decide to keep track of your savings or keep track of how much you're funding, as long as you know how much money is available to you and you can properly allocate it based on either subject and categories or total budgets, like how this one is shown, I would say you want to be comfortable just knowing what's available to you. Because if you don't know what's available to you and you kind of let it be arbitrary, whenever you spend, it could potentially be a stressor because you never know, like, well, how much do I actually have? So regardless of the way that you actually spend your money, I'm just hoping that this would at least encourage you to be a little bit more on top of your funds of how much you're actually gaining and how much you're actually spending on a regular basis so that you can keep track of everything as it comes along. Okay. So, yeah. So hopefully that was a really good snapshot of a lot of the different things that are available to you in regards to just how much money you can save with all the different resources that are on campus. Like, I think with a lot, if you qualify for like the Fresh Hub, there could be a possibility that you're not spending any funds on food for like half a month or so. And then if you don't ever need to buy Scantrons, that's something that you don't need to worry about. I believe they give out a lot of other like other materials for classes. I don't even know what other materials you'll be needing for classes other than like a laptop and Scantrons. But I mean, if you don't have a laptop, you could also borrow a laptop from the library. So hopefully this will give you an idea that there's things on campus that could provide you with some funds so that you don't have to spend everything on just extra things, right? So as we're going along, if any questions do come up, just please let me know. But for now, let's go ahead and address some of the questions that are going to be here. Right, no questions in the chat. Let's see here. Will this information be emailed to us afterwards? Yes. So I will be providing all of this information to you in an email in addition to all of the different links that was here, because I know it's a little robust, but as long as you have an idea and someone tells it to you, at least you know that like, okay, these things exist, but where can I find it? And that's my job. I'll go ahead and send it to you. I'll send you the information for Paulina so that maybe she could walk you through it. If you want to talk about budgets, you can talk directly with me and then we can kind of figure out what's your mentality for spending. So yes, that information will be sent to you as well. Let's see, I'm transferring to UCI this fall. I missed the scholarship application deadline early this year. Can I submit my application as continuing student for November to December 31st application period? Yes, good question. So just to let you know, scholarships are going to be available throughout the entire academic year. And it always resets on every single year. So if the application period for November 2 to December 31st is one, then you can send your application through there and it's going to be considered for the current year of when you apply. Just keep in mind though, that some scholarships, your application might fall into those categories again, or you might resubmit one on accident. You cannot get a scholarship more than once, right? So if you end up getting a scholarship one year, you can't get it again. But yeah, so if you happen to miss the scholarship application period, just go ahead and submit it for the following year. Maybe you'll have better materials to submit at that time period. So who knows, it might be a better application year for you as well. Okay. I did see somebody raise a hand. Did somebody have an additional question? No? All right. Okay. Well, if anything, feel free to send me an email afterward, just to let you know SARC is going to be open throughout the entire summer up until the beginning of the academic year, and we're going to continue all of our operations at that time. So if you did want to make an appointment with myself or anyone at the SARC, you can go ahead and make an appointment through our SARC website. That information is going to be sent to you as well through email. We are going to be taking appointments from 9 to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday in a virtual context for summer. And then I think also going to fall, we're going to be doing it mostly virtual. So you can contact us through there. If you want to learn a little bit more about the opportunities that I mentioned in today's presentation, the reason why I didn't go too much into detail is because this past Tuesday, we actually had a presentation about the leadership opportunities. And some of the opportunities that I mentioned today are actually going to be more in depth in the previous YouTube video that we created last time. So if you do have any additional questions, watch that video. And then if you still have more questions after that, just please make sure to get in contact with me and I can walk you through the process even more in depthly than what's going to be in that video as well. So if there are no additional questions, oh, there is another question here. Let's see here. So Hunter, how do we add our parents to the Zot account so that they may possibly pay for fees? I believe that there's a petition form that you need to actually submit to the Office of Financial Aid. That's something that you might want to ask the Office of Financial Aid specifically. I just know this because I was looking over some of their fact sheet, and yeah, there is a petition form to be able to release some of the information on financial aid. So make sure to actually send that information and ask one of their peer advisors or their professional staff. But yeah, please make sure to check. I do know that there is a form that you need to fill out for the parents, but I'm not sure exactly which specific form that is. Okay, yeah, of course. Please make sure to do so. All right. Any time for some final questions? All right. Well, if there are no other questions, thank you again for joining me. I look forward to seeing you all in the future, and please look out for my email as it comes along. All right. Bye, everyone.